10. Dark Confessions. According to Reddit. Number 10. I conspired with our local pub to get them to stop selling my husband growlers of IPA because the beer made him smell so bad. I may get downvoted for this, but here it goes. My husband loves IPA beer, but it makes him smell so bad it's not even funny. It just reeks out of his pores and will actually make our sheets and pillowcases smell bad. It also really doesn't matter what brand or how high the quality is, whatever is in the IPA doesn't mix with his body chemistry. His favorite beer by far is from the local pub. I'd say he was drinking around 2 to 3 of these growlers of their IPA a week. I finally couldn't take it anymore, so one day at lunch I went in, asked to speak with the owner. He's a very super cool guy, and he said that he also can't stand the IPAs because it's the reason that so many bad breweries have been able to open, because IPAs take very little skill to make, and people often cover up mistakes with the intense flavors. So, he and I worked out a deal that when my husband came in, he and his workers would tell him that they were out of IPA, but they would offer him a more traditional lager at a discount. Our hope was that eventually he'd lose the taste for IPA and stop stinking up our house, and I even offered to work out a deal with the owner that I would pay him whatever he was losing in the discount, and he told me not to worry about it. So it actually worked. I've tricked my husband's taste buds into liking lighter beer, and he seems to be past the disgusting IPA stage, and he smells way better. Suck it, shit beer. That's a hell of a confession, lady.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
You know what time it is.
I appreciate that, Jacob. I do know what time it is. And I appreciate you and that tree fitty. I really do love my new noise. Can it get any darker than a wife tricking her husband into liking light beer? Number 9. I made my school believe that they broke my iPad and made them buy me a new one. Nice. My high school didn't allow phones or tablets to be on your person throughout the school day. Instead, they made us all hand our devices in every morning and pick them up at the end of the school day. They provided us with these white cushioned envelope bags to protect them, but it really did nothing. One morning, I was rushing to catch the bus, and on the way out of boredom, I decided to throw my iPad onto my bed, but it bounced off, landing face down on the slate tiles. I knew straight away it smashed from the sound. I stood there cursing myself until I had an idea. I grabbed my phone bag and put my broken iPad and shattered glass in it and took it to SKU. I handed it in, acting nonchalant about it, and when it came time to pick them up in the afternoon, I put my best shocked/sad face on as I opened the bag. I went to the nearest teacher and told her that I found my iPad broken. She took me to the office and eventually the principal, and at first she seemed suspicious about the entire thing, but when my dad, 25-year Army veteran, came to pick me up, he gave her and the entire administration staff a spraying. She originally agreed to pay for it to be repaired, but when that couldn't be done, she agreed to buy a replacement model. The thing is that the iPad was a second generation model and it was 2014, so we ended up getting a brand new model as well. I never admitted to anyone in SKU out of fear that it would eventually lead to the principal finding out. And that's what I'm talking about. You know what time it is. Let's continue. Number 8. I lied to my best friend to get off the phone, not knowing that he was writing his suicide note and just wanted one last chat. Jeez. Well, how could you know, my man? Maybe he knew what a bore he was to talk to, man. You're trying to get off the phone with him in his last conversation. It's a poorly executed joke in bad taste. I hope you enjoy. One day after school, I was with a friend, or a few friends. We were all smoking, and at some point during the session, I get a call from my best friend who sounded a bit out of it and didn't really seem like he had any other intention than just to have a conversation. We spoke for about 2 minutes, and then it was my turn in the circle, so I told my friend that my phone was about to die, so I was going to have to get back to him. The next day, I awoke to multiple missed calls from his mother. I called her immediately, and she told me that he had hung himself and that he was in a coma. I would then go on to spend 4 days in the hospital by his side for the most part, and on the 4th day, they turned his life support off. During all of this, I checked his phone, as I was the only person who knew his passcode, and I found a suicide note. The timestamp was around the time that he had called me the day before. I'm not sure if I will ever get over the fact that I gave up my last conversation ever with the greatest person I've ever known for a bong. How could you know, my dude? Get over it. What's funny is that he wasn't a female about it, as rude as that is to say. You know, he wasn't seeking your attention. He wasn't trying to be all like, I'm gonna kill myself, bro. He wasn't a nice guy trying to get sex out of a girl. Ugh. Number 8 is what we just read. Nice one, Kyle. Number 7. I put a dildo in a random kid's backpack. This is so harmless. When I was in high school, I thought it would be really funny to buy a dildo from Spencer's as a gag joke. The joke was funny as fuck within my group of friends for like a month or so. Sounds like these guys all play Fortnite and just stand around as opposed to killing anybody. Then I was just a random owner of a dildo. I knew I needed to get rid of it because I would have probably killed myself if my parents found it in my room. I knew that after school, there was always a group of kids who worked out in our gym, and they would leave their backpacks wide open in the locker room. So when everybody left, I put a dildo in a random kid's bag. I honestly just wish I had gotten to see the reaction when he got home. You hear that, ladies? If you want a special gift, just leave that backpack open. Number 6. I pretended I was selling something on Craigslist and got 2 strangers to meet awkwardly. Years ago, I made a new email address and got 2 potential buyers for a PlayStation that I was pretending to sell. I confirmed a date and time with both of them, deciding on the mall near a certain store, and I asked what they'd be wearing so that I could find them. I gave them each other's description for myself and then went and hung out. One walked up to the other. You could tell there was an immediate confusion. They started arguing over who had what. You could see them get pissed once they realized that what happened and wasted their time. They both stormed off on their phones. Sure enough, I got angry emails from both of them. Lol. I feel kind of bad about it, but it was a funny interaction to witness. See, this is why we can't have nice things anymore on Craigslist, you know? Not that I was ever brave enough to utilize that. Yeah, you gotta be living on the edge to make some Craigslist shit happen, my dude. You gotta be living on the edge. You gotta be halfway there, you know? You gotta be living on a prayer. Take my hand. Number 5 on this list of 10 dark confessions steps it into another gear. Let's get ready to rumble. I'm purposely trying not to get my wife pregnant. My man. I'm in my late 20s. My wife is still in her early 20s. We currently have no kids. 2 dogs, have been married for only 7 months. My initial plan was to be married for 2 years, get established jobs, then get established in our jobs, which are fairly new, then start trying for kids. I really do want them, and I've expressed my concern to her. But she doesn't want to hear any of it. This person got pregnant. This person is due any time. Her friends from high school / college are having kids, etc. She wants a baby now. We dated for a total of 3 years before we got married. The first 2 were a sex-filled romp. My wife is a freak in bed, and she sure showed it. After we got engaged, it slowed down a bit, and she wasn't as freaky, but it was still satisfying. Now that we're married, she doesn't want anything intimate unless we are trying. If I say, hey, want to have sex or even attempt foreplay, she brushes it off. But if I say, hey, let's make a baby, she turns back into freak mode. Dude, run. How can you even write this down and read it back to yourself and not realize what the fuck you're in? Run. My wife is one of those that thought of a guy, if a guy ejaculates inside a woman, she will become pregnant no matter what. She didn't realize about ovulation and peak times and whatnot. So after she learned about it, she asked me to download the Flow app and chart her cycles for her. I did, but I manipulated the whole thing. When she thinks she's ovulating, she's not, and the chances of her getting pregnant are slim to none. Sometimes I'll tell her that the peak day is coming up, so that we should start early. We have crazy sex for 3 to 4 days in a row, and then nothing while she's actually ovulating. I'm a bad person. I will eventually give her a baby, just not anytime soon. There's so many women in the world. There's so many women in the world. Why settle for one that's gonna fuck you while y'all are messing around? Then as soon as you get engaged and then get married, she's not interested in that anymore. You know? Yes, there's more than sex, my dude. But find yourself someone who's mutual and reciprocates your affection enough that they would fuck your brains out just to make you feel good, even if they're not feeling it. You know what I mean? And if you can find somebody that you feel strongly enough to where you would do things for them even if you're not feeling it, and they do things for you even if they're not feeling it, that's a union that nothing can fucking sever. But bruh,
My friends are having babies. I want to have a baby too. What do you mean have sex with you? I'm trying to have a baby, okay? I can't not have what these other people do, okay? I am basic, and you want to sign up to live the rest of your life with me. That's right. Jobs, career, pfft. My life is over. I'm trying to have this baby right now, okay? And then watch it, and then use it as an accessory, okay? I remember chihuahuas used to be cool. No. It's all about babies now.
doesn't get any scarier than that, folks.
Doesn't get any scarier than that, folks.
That's the actual voice of the bitch when she wants the baby.
Give me that baby. Put it inside me. Download the app. And tell me when I'm ovulating. That's yummy baby batter.
I completely forgot what kind of list this was supposed to be. Oh, Kyle, you jokester. Number 4. After my bike was locked by campus police for being illegally parked, I damaged property to get my bike free and get out of a ticket. What a badass. What a badass. That's a cool crime, bro. I'm kidding. The Kyle channel does not condone destruction of property or, illegal activities and all this other stuff. Let's get through this. When I was in college, I illegally parked my bike on a signpost. I did this because all the bike slots were overflowing this day and just wanted enough parking for all of the students, so I locked it to a nearby signpost, and I can't remember what it said. Probably some shit like, no parking. Get real, lol. Anyway, I locked it. I went to class, and when I came out, it had a lock on it from the campus police along with a ticket. It was one of these heavy-duty U-shaped metal bar locks. I walked home that day, and later that night when nobody was around, I went back to my bike, worked the signpost out of the ground, which was compact crushed stone, and got my bike free. The lock was still on my frame, but I could ride it. I laid the sign on the ground, rode back home. Then the next day I borrowed a stone wheel attachment for a drill and cut through the lock. It wore down the attachment, but I got out of a $15 ticket. Yes, I was an asshole, but I was determined not to let the man win. So here go the real question. Um, you know, how brave were you parking your bike, you know, relative to the same area that this happened? Because surely the same cop, who knows? Nah, maybe he thought that it was handled or something. Who knows? I'm just scared I'm always being recorded, because we are always being recorded, even by our own phones. Y'all need to buy yourselves a non-smartphone, dudes. I should consider doing that. Wow. As we continue, we arrive at number 3. I slept with my daughter's ex-boyfriend. He got me pregnant. I had an abortion. They got back together and got married. I did mention this was dark, right? Just because all of them aren't dark doesn't mean it's not going to go there. You got to have some bullshit in the beginning to make YouTube get the fuck up off your back, you know? Got to be making some kind of corny ass, you know, a fuckboy video, and then they go, okay, this is no big deal. I slept with my daughter's ex-boyfriend. He fucked a baby in me. I had an abortion. They got back together, and then they got married. This was back in 1997. I was 38 years old. My daughter was 18 when she was dating Harry, who was 24. I was an alcoholic and dabbled in drugs, mostly cocaine. I was not a good person, let alone a good mother. Not like I was abusive to my daughter or anything, but I was generally inattentive and cared more about my alcohol and drugs than her, especially in her teen years. I'm 14 years sober now. I disapproved of my daughter dating Harry, but I never told her why. He would flirt with me constantly, and the age difference also creeped me out. Also, he was an alcoholic and a drug user, just like me. She broke up with him over his alcoholism. Soon after, she moved away. Not too far, but regardless, she didn't live with me anymore. Harry kept calling me and asking if he wanted to get drinks. I turned him down. But then one day he said that he had a bunch of coke, and I just couldn't resist. See, I know this one hoe. Maybe this will be a little more real than you guys are interested in, but this is the way that it goes. I know there's one hoe, and she's all about the drugs. To the point where she'll do anything for the next score. Because that's what addiction is. Alright? That's what addiction is. It's funny because you like to think that there was a day where there were definitely things she would say no to, you know? Getting on her knees and giving that, you know what I mean? Laying on her back and taking it all night as the puppet, or, you know, the cum bag that she is devoting herself to being just for a night where she gets a quote unquote free score, you know what I mean? That's acceptable to her, but how much is too much? You know, what's your limit? That's the real question. The dark part that I'm gonna admit to you is that, look, man, she got to a point where she was so used to herself just being used that she would do this for like anything, you know? And I'm the type of person that believes, hey man, you want to live your life? You're not hurting anybody. I guess it's your body, you know, make your own rules. But it just seemed like she didn't respect herself, man. She was doing it for weed, you know. She was doing it, you know, it was full-blown prostitution. That's all I have to say. It reached that point. And the terrible part was, you could look at this girl and just see that it was just worn out, beaten down, saggy, sad, you know, burnt out, beaten down. What a shame. But that's who she was. That's all she was. And I'm going to say it to you like this, man. I'm going to say it to you like this. It's a slippery slope. Okay. It's a slippery slope. So be careful what you try. Be careful what you take. Be careful what you accept. Be careful what you allow. Okay? Because it's impossible to be a good person. And I know that that's what some people are invested in. I know that sounds candy ass to some of y'all. Like, who gives a fuck about being a good person? But hey, man, by the end of your life, that's all that's gonna matter. But maybe you set up in a way where you don't care until you reach that point. Hey, just take care of yourself, man. Because some people don't have your best interest at heart. And maybe some people were never interested in giving you the score that you're trying to settle or establish in the first place. Ooh, boy. But soon after this lady's daughter moved away, Harry invited her because she had some coke and she couldn't resist. He came over, we did the coke, and we ended up having sex. Of course y'all did. He was a very good looking guy. He looked a lot like a ridiculous 80s Justin Bieber picture that was on the front page today. Okay. That is actually what made me think about him. For the next few months, maybe like 3 to 4 months, he would sometimes come over, we would have sex and do drugs and get drunk together. Any drug addict knows what that is like to have a drug addict buddy in that way. Yeah. A drug addict buddy. What a fun way to put that. What a dignified way to put that. What this is a hoe that has her brakes beat the fuck off. Just a loose bitch that will receive that in and out for a small amount. You know what I mean? That will do anything for it. You want yourself a hot hole, you know what I mean? A warm hole. She is ready and willing, and she is trying to get it. As long as you give me a little bit, please. Please, I just need a little bit. You know what I mean? That's her life. So the bitch gets pregnant, and she knew it was by him. I had sex without a condom a few times, stupidly. I never told him I was pregnant, and I went and got the abortion and kept it a secret. Anyway, I stopped seeing him after that. It was too weird. I also got sober for like 4 months before relapsing. Fast forward 2 years, and my daughter contacts me and tells him that she got back with Harry and that he is fully sober. I was mortified, honestly. He was going to tell her that we slept together and that she was going to hate me for life. They come over one day and say hi. And when my daughter was gone, Harry told me that there is no reason to tell her about anything that happened. And maybe I agreed. Wow. It's been 16 years of marriage on their part. They have a kid together. Harry got cancer and then he beat it. I got sober and that's basically it. Wow. Great for Harry. The wizard. I don't see them very often. They live in Texas. I live on the East Coast. But whenever I do, it's always that tension between me and Harry. It's literally the first thing that comes to either of our minds. I can just tell. Not sexual tension, but like, why did we do that? What the fuck is wrong with us? Nah, he knew what he was doing. Most men would do it regardless. For most men, it's really just like I bet you I could get this bitch to fuck me. And when she's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And you're like, bitch, look at this coke that I got. Shut the fuck up and open that mouth. And her mom was like, you know what I mean? She was ready. Wow. My God. I think about this often, especially when I see my grandson. I always think that could have been my son if things had gone differently. But wow, what a disaster that would have been if I decided to keep that child. Well, you know, that's a pretty real entry. That's a pretty real entry, guys. You know? And the thing about Reddit, as I say very often, even if it's fiction, even if this specific entry is fiction, that shit has happened. That shit is happening right now. And every variable that occurred in this story, you can change. It's a true story, you know? You can change this shit to 2018. It's happening right now. You can change this age to like lower. It's happening right now. Swap it out with like a teacher and a student. That shit's happening right now. Swap out the fact that she had the abortion and said she actually had the kid. That shit's happening right now. Oh no. Oh no. To be honest, the story isn't as bad as it could be. At least they aren't related. Number 2. I regret having my child. Damn. I was married for 15 years to my high school sweetheart. We had 2 beautiful children, 13 and 9 years old. For many reasons, we divorced. Skip to me starting to date again a year later. I meet an amazing woman almost right away, like within the first month of dating. We have a ton in common, we fall in love very quickly, and she tells me early that she wants kids. I had never wanted more kids. 2 was more than enough for me. I had even made an appointment to get snipped later that year, but this woman is perfect for me. And having kids is a deal breaker for her, so I decide that I could do this all again. For her. For us. I'm approaching 40. When we start trying. Man, this shit sounds like badass. You know what I mean? It's the way it's just like when we decide to start trying for a child. I'm approaching 40 years old. The day the child is born, I thought he could speak. Because I heard him say,
"Call me Damien."
I'm kidding. I'm so sorry. I truly apologize. But this woman is perfect for me, so, I try for her, for us. I'm approaching 40 when we finally start trying. Due to some health complications, she's over 35 years old and has high blood pressure. We end up having to do in vitro fertilization. It works, and we were pregnant soon afterwards, but our son was born prematurely. They warned us that this was a possibility due to her age and health, and he had to stay in the NICU for 3 months. My wife developed postpartum due to the stress. We found out our son had cerebral palsy. A milder form, but he had it. Our world shifted from being a happy couple with a new baby to a depressed and stressed couple dealing with a child that has a lifelong disability. This is not how I perceived my second chance at happiness was going to be. I won't leave my wife, and I will love and take care of our son forever, but not a day goes by where I don't regret my decision to have more kids. I should have listened to my gut feeling from the beginning and called off the relationship early on. She wanted kids. I did not. That is a lack of compatibility, folks, and sometimes your gut, it's got the feelings that make, ooh. But I did this for her. Now I'm depressed, financially strained, and my future isn't the relaxing one that I had pictured. I can never tell my wife this, of course, and I feel bad even writing this to all of you, but I just needed to get it out. Damn. Damn, baby. God damn. Whatever. Keep it dark. I don't want no happy bullshit up in this list. You see my little kitty cat? That's where it's at. As we complete this list of 10 dark confessions, we're at number 1. I kicked my son out of our house for being gay. He became an alcoholic and nearly drank himself to death. Drank what? Cum? I'm kidding. That's a joke. It's just a joke, my dude. There's no anti-homo, stuff going on here. If you're a homo person and you want a kiss, I'll give you a kiss. Okay? Chill. It's a joke, If you can't take a joke, what are you, a gay? I'm kidding. This was in 1991. My son was 18 and going to a local college. My wife and I considered ourselves sort of normal New Jersey Italian Catholic family. We were the traditional and fairly ignorant kind of motherfuckers when it came to most things. We hated and perceived feminization of the culture, images of drag queens in New York City and AIDS, and the tight pants of modern kids made us recoil in horror. My wife found gay porn magazines in my son's room.
What? Are you gay?
I came home to a shitstorm. She was freaking out on him. I asked why, and she showed me what it was. I felt my heart drop down into my stomach. It was like a punch to the gut. He was gay? It felt like the ultimate betrayal to us. Betraying our religion, betraying the normal, healthy upbringing that we gave him. We had zero concept of the idea of being born gay. We thought it was something that you made a choice to engage in, and once you did, you couldn't stop it. The gay consumed you. Everything that we had given him, a normal, religious, traditional home with enough money to go to college and the freedom to do whatever he wanted, he just threw it all away. At least that is what we thought at the time. He was my only precious thing in the world, my son. The person who would inherit my family's name, my son. My son. The man who raised from a child to be a man. And, the only reason that he light switches is because the kid almost killed himself. Let's be real. Y'all want to talk about the real world. This dude would probably have felt the way that he feels from, from the day that the kid was born to the day that the kid died. Hindsight is what's 2020. And let's face it, your parents would probably get into an argument with y'all about something irrelevant like, rags or who knows. Where are the towels? Why haven't you folded the towels? You put the towels where they belong. Who took my DVDs? Mom, nobody even watches those anymore. Can you just download shit onto a hard drive? I'm gonna get you a Fire Stick. What do you want? Anything. Jesus Christ. Where are the DVDs? Where's the DVD player? Just use the Xbox, goddamn. That's what it's for. It's Xbox player. It plays everything, goddamn it. God damn it. Thank you, Only Jags, for the follow. Looks like Cassidy's about to be destroyed as the stream boss, but she may make it another night. Good for her. The man who I raised from a child to be a man, but at that moment was the furthest thing from a real man in my mind that I could imagine. I made the choice right then and there that he was no son of mine. You're not my, I have no son. He was just a sissy bitch who happened to live in my house. Oh, I could do something about that. I know how horrific this sounds because it was horrific, and it was how almost everyone who lived in our community felt. We were constantly spewed with propaganda to hate gay people and ideas. The youth were all gay and You know what pisses me off about this, and I'll be real with it. I'm sorry that it ruins the experience of me just reading straight through it. But don't you miss like when you were younger and you would just read some crazy ass shit in a book that was totally a product of its time, that didn't give a fuck about no women's rights or black people being considered, human. You know what I mean? I'm a black man. But like I'm saying to you right now, there's nothing like reading literature from the time where it reflects the views of the people at the time, untarnished, uncensored, in its pure form, a true reflection of what was going on at the time. I've read me some shit that made me go, God damn, when I was reading that. You know what I mean? While we're reading this, the guy's just like, I know it's horrible because it was horrible, but I told him that he was a sissy bitch and I told him to get out of my house. But imagine if the dad had wrote this shit at the time and was like, this motherfucker, you know what I'm talking about? Just really going in on this guy. That's what I want to read. I want to read that entry from like the day that it happened and be like, God damn, you know what I mean? And if I ever saw him again, I would cut his balls off. No, this bullshit. People are crazy. People were crazy. Forgive me as I finish this entry. You know what's really sucky about the world that we live in? Perhaps the darkest thing in the world is that if a lot of people that have the power to change the past or how we ingest the past, if they had their say, which in many cases they do, they would alter our ability to perceive it. They would go full Agit Pie and they would censor what we can and can't see. They would filter what is available to us. They would funnel any and everything that they wanted through a channel and make it the only channel that is available to us for information. And I think that sucks. I don't know if it was The Simpsons that had an episode of that where it was like they took all the books of the old times and they made them politically correct. And in many ways, they took some of the conflict out of all of the books and they were just garbage, because it's like, nigga, that's not history. That's not history. And even in a story that we can tell nowadays, if it struggles to be politically correct, then it's not real. I'm not saying nothing should be political. I'm not saying everybody should always, adhere to proper pronouns and racially sensitive bullshit and treating women fairly. I'm just saying, my God, my dude, you can't tell the story of the world in which we live as it is while heavily omitting certain things. And I feel like the projection of this utopia that we sure as hell don't live in, is harmful to people who are trying to come up in this world. Because I'll tell it to you like this. My mom was a hard motherfucker, but I thank God for her every day. Because if she didn't brace my ass for the unfair bullshit that I was about to be fucked on through in a way where I would wish that I could just die because it was preferable to torture, my dude, I would be unprepared. I would not be prepared, my dude. But these days, I think a lot of these kids are being built up to think that it's going to be fine. People going to regard you right. Things are going to be making sense. And when it doesn't, my dude, how can they be prepared for that? Of course, they're going to want to slit their wrists and tie that noose and jump off the building, my dude. Of course, they're going to be wanting to run to a cabinet and figure out some pills, because if you don't train them, if you don't stress test them, then they're like a fucking video game that comes out that everybody's trying to play day one. Nigga, the service ain't going to work. It's just going to buckle under the pressure. What an analogy. But my point is, my dude, how about you give us something that's real? That's what I seek on this channel with all of the things that I read. That's why I'm constantly getting struck on YouTube. I'm not out here begging anybody for anything, because like I've made it clear, and I want to continue to make it clear, these videos are for me just as much as they are for you. And if you want to watch them and you feel like they're interesting and you have a little bit of a distraction, you put it on in the background while you're eating, while you're playing something, while you're just doing whatever, you know what I mean? It's a just like a thing that you can set your watch to and have every night, then I appreciate you for being here. But again, I get as much pleasure out of reading this as maybe some of you do ingesting it. This isn't a chore for me. I'm not going to get burnt out on this like all these other YouTube douchebags, my dude. But I'm just like you, where I look at the world and I'm like, God damn, man. Like, how much worse can it get? And now it's like getting worse in different ways, where it's like we're not even being allowed to see how bad that it is, We're just trying to literally just look. We're not trying to get a bias. We're not trying to get this crazy angle. We're not trying to be told how to feel. Why don't you just show me what's happening? Why is that hard to find, my dude? I don't know. That's that. Forgive me. Old man Kyle rant, but hey, not trying to be spooky, just calling it like it is. As we finish the first one on the dark confession list. From the dad who kicked his gay son out. Look, man, the dad says, I barely spoke to this kid. My wife was the one who did all the yelling. I just went red in the face, couldn't even look at him. She told me to get the fuck out, or told him to get the fuck out, and go to New York to live with his gay friends, who she assumed were all gay as well, and she was right, mostly. She physically hit him a lot. What a bunch of Italians. I'm kidding. Got him to pack his stuff. He was crying. And she told him to get out. My wife and I were just devastated afterwards. We went to church a lot. My wife told all the other families in the area, and they were horrified at my son. I remember when we told our priest, who was a very nice, accepting man, about our son, he looked to be disgusted. But when we told him that we kicked him out, he looked at us in disgust, or at least hiding it a tiny bit. Living without my son hurt. It also made me rethink things over time. I still saw him almost as an inhuman person. So to be gay to me at the time was so sinful and horrific that it was impossible to truly consider accepting them as real. My God, my nigga, where's this going? Okay. My wife and I grew apart in the 6 months following my son leaving, and she started to drink a lot. She was a nasty drunk, and she had a history of alcoholism. I knew how bad it could get. This was the worst, and I had never even seen... this is the worst that I had ever seen her. We fought constantly over stupid things, and all I could think about was that when our son was here, we never fought. He always calmed us down. In the end, I got kicked out of my own home. She told me to leave. I moved to New York to live with my brother in the Bay Ridge, and we got divorced officially a few months later. She would die from liver failure 7 years later. Holy shit. Holy shit. I made the choice, a conscious choice, to find out where my son was. At that point in my life, it was just in shambles, and I was rethinking everything about how I viewed my religion, my life, and that I was just so horribly depressed and lonely. Finding him was a nightmare in and of itself. It took 2 weeks of calling homeless shelters and asking around at the time if they had seen my son months ago. I finally found him in an apartment building in Williamsburg, and I saw him and apologized, and I told him that I am so sorry that I kicked him out. Part of me was still in the same mindset as before. I was still a raging homophobe, but I tried to push that part away and just be with my son and ignore anything else. He was a severe alcoholic. My first thought was when I had seen him sweaty and skinny and sickly looking was that he had AIDS. But no, it was alcoholism. It runs in the family. He said that it started soon after I kicked him out, and that he was horribly depressed and turned to drinking heavily. Even his roommate said that it was a major problem. For the next 3 months, I spent a lot of time focusing on getting him clean. I met his friends, about half of whom were gay, and we worked together to help him. We went to a detox clinic. He went to rehab. We spent a lot of emotional days together. I didn't want to lose him, even though just a year before I was desperate to get rid of him. The thought of him dying right after this because we kicked him out, it was too much to bear. I made the decision that if he died, I would probably commit suicide after. So what a real thing for you to write, man. But he would get clean, then relapse 4 months later, then get clean again for 2 years, then relapse again. Then he quickly recovered, and he would never touch another drop again. Spending that time with my son and seeing how he lived was more important, actually. No, seeing how he lived and, more importantly, seeing how these gay men lived their lives completely normally, it changed me as a human being. In '96, I went to my first Pride Parade with my son to support him and his boyfriend at the time. I took a heavy interest in the LGBT community and went with my son to visit his friends in AIDS clinics. I'm glad he had a turnaround. Let's talk about something real quick. It's sad what propaganda can do to people, you know? You hear me talking about how important it is for me that the narrative, history be represented in a realistic way and not be censored. And it's because for a while, like if America was the way that it is now, imagine everything on Twitter, everything on Facebook, everything on Reddit, everything on Instagram, everything on YouTube being, how the blacks are evil, how, and just imagine it. Imagine that was the only narrative. Some of these people don't know any other way. And much like in the story where the dude had to go see how the gay people lived, to have his religious teachings, thrown into question, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Some people just follow shit blind. Some people just believe shit blind. Some people believe so crazily that even if they have proof in their face, they're not going to change their opinion, which is why it's important that the ability to make a choice is important to present to somebody, not just the choice being made for them and them being told how to think, because there's nothing scarier than some of these bandwagons that people jump on. And then you realize down the line that they didn't even know that there was an option. They didn't even know that there was another way of thinking. And it's pretty crazy. Well, oh, pathetic. Pathetic. Zygos, I don't care if he regrets it. OP and his wife can eat shit and die. Man, it ain't that big a deal. You know? These corny old motherfuckers, you know. Yeah, kicking the boy out was fucked up. You know? But I'd rather he not be in that scenario than be living amongst people that disregard him and who he is because of how he feels. You know? Spider-Man has one of the highest platinum trophy completion rates for a major PS4 game. I got a platinum trophy in Spider-Man. You know why? Because it was fun. Somebody said it's super easy to get. It's a fun game too, so it doesn't feel like a slog. Oh man. Oh no, I shouldn't have put Spider-Man shit at the end of this list. Let me end it for YouTube. Love you people on YouTube. Like the video for me. Thank you to my sponsors. Thank you to my amazing patrons as well. And I am one request away from fulfilling whatever you're interested in. I love you to death.